There is no valid reason to leave Islam at any point.
I was a Christian and now I'm Muslim. I had a valid reason for leaving Christianity. They would have valid reasons for leaving Islam.
And other reason is because of the behavior of Muslims. People might have less understanding about certain aspect of the religion. Extreme Muslims everywhere.
There's no justifiable reason why you should take a person's life because they are living in a religion. I mean, there are apostasy laws that demand the termination of life in Sharia, yes?
I think one of the most misunderstood things is Sharia. Some people might be like, oh, it is the Sharia that made some people to burn a girl to death in a certain state in Nigeria. It is not in the place of the ordinary men to carry out punishment. You don't apply Sharia on a non-Muslim. It is wrong.
My stand is that apostasy, in the times it was proposed, is justifiable.
The same way you're justifying the fact that it was justifiable back then is the same way certain people would perform this same act and claim it under the religion, and it would make perfect sense to them. Are you joking? Why? Because you're living in
because
fear.
they don't even understand.
So how are you justifying
A
the
lot of
wrongs
them-
that people did back then that's putting fear in the hearts of Christians and other people?
Here are the prompts we'll be discussing on today's episode. Please signify if you agree with the prompt. There is no valid reason to leave Islam.
There is no valid reason to leave Islam at any point. If I know something is totally right, if I have an unshaken knowledge and belief in something that this thing is a complete truth, it has no element of falsehood, and I'm ready to go into that thing, to practice that, then at no point in time should I say no. If at any point in time I choose to leave that, then that means fundamentally that thing is definitely, there's something wrong, either with my knowledge of that thing, or meaning there is fundamentally something wrong somewhere. My name is Ridwan. I'm a software engineer, the founder of Al-Mohar. So it's a tech agency. I'm a Muslim, born and bred. From a very young age, or let me say my nature is a very curious one. I've had a kind of connection spiritually from a very young age. So it gave me the avenue to be inquisitive for my own sanity. I need to have some conviction, right, that as to why I'm doing something. By God's grace, I've had, series of developments, and both in the knowledge aspect, the spiritual aspect, and, thank God, right? So I'm still a Muslim, and I pray I am forever.
Can the disagreeers now speak?
Okay, so I believe that people have reasons for leaving Islam, and the reasons are not actually because of the fault of Islam. No, it is not because Islam is faulty.
Definitely.
People might have less understanding about certain aspect of the religion, maybe because they didn't actually seek for the knowledge. You're not actually supposed to just be born a Muslim and you keep practicing Islam like it's just some kind of bread and butter kind of thing that you just wake up early in the morning and you're just munching on and nobody teaches you how to eat. No, you have to learn. You need to understand Islam. And for someone who doesn't understand Islam, it might be a reason for them to leave Islam. And other reason is because of the behavior of Muslims. Yeah, there are extreme Muslims everywhere. And honestly, because of that extremism, some people actually are so lazy, they don't read. They are only ready to read memes and comments. That's what they are interested in. And it is you, the Muslim, that they're actually reading. And because they are looking at you as a Muslim, like, oh, this Muslim did something like, oh, who did this? Is a Muslim. Like, these are things that I've experienced too. And because of that, some people might actually feel like, oh, they don't want to do Islam anymore.
As an ex-Muslim who was born into like a Nita religion household, my mom's a Christian, my dad's a Muslim. I actually had like a taste of both religions before I got into the university. The time I was in secondary school, I always get like a comment like, oh, Demi, you do not know how to pray well, you're not bowing well, you're not doing this well enough. There were times I always tried to improve on myself, but I still needed someone to show me. They were never interested. When I got into university, I was not even practicing religion like that anymore. If someone tells me, oh, what's your religion? I'll say, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, that kind of stuff. I'm practicing both. Go to church on Sunday, I will not go. Go to mosque on Friday, I will not go. Because I really did not have anyone that was willing to drag me. My roommate in in university was a Muslim. This girl would pray 5 times daily. Did she for once ever tell me, Demi, come and join me and pray? No. Only one person asked me that, oh, Demi, can you follow me to the mosque and pray? And I followed the person and I just felt like I don't belong here. I do not feel like I am meant to be here. I've had Christian friends my whole life. Oh, I asked them, oh, I do not understand this in the Bible. They are there to explain to me. My Muslim friends, most of them were never even serious with prayer too. So it's not like that. In fact, I don't think I really even saw my dad really praying that much. So due to the environment I grew up in and due to the way I've seen people around me, I chose Christianity and I've been at peace here. So I would say it depends on you, your environment. I'm Oluwademilade Akintoye. I'm a graduate of chemistry. I am a Christian, an ex-Muslim. It was more of like I was trying to practice 2 religions at the same time, but I decided that I wanted to be a Christian when I was in uni, but I started taking it seriously earlier this year.
Religion is very personal. We cannot say there is no valid reason for you to make a personal decision, and just because it doesn't sit well with me or just because I'm not happy with it, that makes it a wrong reason. People decide to make certain big decisions based on life experiences and things that have happened to them. It would hurt if somebody you care deeply for and you were both in the same religion decides to move to another religion. Why? It would hurt because you understand that I feel this certain peace with this religion. How come you don't feel it? And you feel this need to want to preach to them, to want to see the bright side, to want to see the good side. But I think that's where we get it wrong. I completely disagree because I was a Christian and now I'm Muslim. I had a valid reason for leaving Christianity. They would have valid reasons for leaving Islam, and it's peculiar and personal to them. So we can't decide what's right and what's wrong. At the end of the day, it's your relationship between you and God, whatever God you serve.
People can claim to have objective and valid reasons why they would leave Islam. Well-documented cases about this. Take, for instance, the Braille Handbook of Leaving Religion, like that's the name. There's a segment on Islam where people give various reasons as to why they left Islam. Another interesting factor is something I had to look upon about the Middle East, where many Muslims, I beg your pardon, claim to be having a visionary encounter where a man who is dressed in white would come to them and would speak to them. There's a consistency in all of their narrations that they would weep and have a serious conviction of sin, and then they would eventually leave Islam to Christianity. There are various reasons why one could leave Islam, just like there might be various reasons why one can leave Christianity as well. Mine has always been a comparative analysis of some sorts, right? From when I was much younger. I had the Gideon's Bible that I saw because I was comparing. And as I would read from the Gospels, it feels as if I'm being drawn by the very words of this man, Christ. He offered me hope because around that time I had lost my dad and stuff. The point is, when I contrast that to Islam, now I'm not saying that's a uniform experience for everybody, but when I contrast that to Islam sometimes, I didn't really have that hope or joy. I could recite Arabic from madrasa. We had an English translation where I would read, and I really would not get as much hope as I would when I read the text of scripture. When I would see claims of miracles, it was something that significantly contrasted my own faith. Islam. Now, also, I think a last point, you're reciting the Quran, for instance, to invoke the blessings of Allah, or when you are praying Salat. Ultimately, it feels like there's no spiritual connection between, really that and what you're reciting for me. As opposed to if I'm reading the Bible, for instance. Now, there are people that understand Arabic, that can read Arabic, they know the Arabic, as opposed to quite a large number of Muslims who would do walima, maybe from your 5th year, 6th year. But if I were to ask you, okay, what is it that you've just recited? Quite a number cannot tell what they just recited. As opposed to reading the Quran where Allah says that he's a father to nobody, right? Where we are to see ourselves as slaves. Sorry?
Lam yalid wa lam yulad.
Yes.
Begets not, nor is he begotten.
Yes. Wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And also where God says he's not one's father, and we are to see ourselves as slaves of Allah. That sounds like a contradistinction to what the gospel makes when in Matthew 6, the disciples will ask Jesus how to pray. And the first point of contact is that our Father. Or where Christ will say, I no longer call you servants, but I call you friends. That drew me in amongst many other things.
I am an ex-Muslim. I was born and bred into a predominantly, Muslim family. I would not say that I found Christ in any church. And so when I tell people this, people are always amazed, like, okay, so how did you become a convert? I found Christ, firstly, through healing. So when I was young, I would have scary dreams, bad dreams. I was very afraid. And my mother, not knowing exactly what to do about this, would take us to a church. And there, the dreams stopped. And so that started a lot of questions. Because I was fine. I was actually fine being a Muslim babe. I was not like covering my hair, doing all the everything. I was fine. I mean, girl. There was a lot of questions that started to come to my mind. Why could I not find answers in my own religion?
Now, going back to your point, you said the reason why you left Islam was because of some people, and you made some claims of some Iranian people, right? To me, it seems they don't know much about their knowledge about their deen. So now, talking about visions, right? In the book, right, there's a place where Ibn Arabi, there was a narration about when he went to church and he met a pastor on the altar preaching, and people were looking at him, being a sheikh and everything. And, then, we have posters, there are posters of Christ, right? And he did a miracle in the church. He made the poster of Christ to start talking. Isn't that a miracle? And he started asking the poster question, are you Christ? He said no. And thousands of congregations then, on that day, converted to Islam. So meaning if you are a Muslim and you see visions of maybe a man with beard, visions can have different interpretations. As a Muslim, if you are seeing visions of a white man or something, because Islam itself has already spoken about Jesus, so why are you saying, why are you going back? As a Muslim, you already believe in Christ, that, he's a prophet of God. Everything he did, bi-iznillahi, tuhil mota, bi-iznillahi, he did everything by the command, with the commands of God. So why would you now say, because you have an encounter? Definitely you can have an encounter with any of the prophets.
It's his personal
Do you understand?
experience.
So does meaning there should be nothing that should convince you to move out of that.
Hold on a minute. If you're not subscribed to the channel, here's the perfect time for you to smash that subscribe button and like the video if you're enjoying the conversation so far. Now, let's get back to the show.
Even the Quran says, وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Truly, the truth is one and it's from your Lord. And it gave us a choice. If you like, believe. If you like, you might say you are not a Muslim. So, obviously, the Quran is telling you that not everybody will believe in the Quran. Not everybody will believe in Islam. So, basically, it tells us that people might have reason they want to leave Islam. We as Muslims, we believe in miracle. Yes, our prophet performed miracle. Yes. Do normal Muslims perform miracle? Yes, we can. But the thing is, will you know if you can perform miracle? No, that is where we have two different things. We have what we call the mujiza and we have what we call the karamo. The mujiza is meant for the prophets of God alone. They all perform miracles. You can't tell me that splitting the sea is not a miracle. It is a miracle. But for normal Muslims, we have what we call the karamo. And if you have the what you hear, they say, karamo. That's where it's coming from. So the thing is, if you have it as a Muslim, you can't know. It now depends on your relationship with God. But the fact that you are able to find a solution to a place does not nullify what you believe in. People have problems and they will go to voodoo man and they will get their problem solved from voodoo man.
Can I say something? If you have a problem and what you believe in is not giving you the solution to it,
that's where I'm trying to drive
and you found something that gave you the solution to it, and you look deeper and you see this thing that is giving me the solution to this. In her case, permits me, she was having dreams, and when she was in church, the dreams would stop. But is that not a solution to our problem?
I've not driven at the point of understanding. Let me ask you a question. You went to Madrasa, right? You were taught all these things. Let me ask you a question. If you have a dream in Islam, if you have a bad dream, what's the thing you're meant to do?
There's a dua you're
That's the thing. That's why I said. Sorry, I'm not trying to stereotype her or to accuse her of it. No, that's what I'm trying.
She was a child and she told her mom.
Yes. Like, see, as a child, we know these are things that we learn right from childhood. For me, if I have a bad dream, I've had bad dreams as a child. But what am I supposed to do as a Muslim to counter that? We've learned this thing right from our childhood.
This is the problem that I have with most Muslims. They take a part. The way you just took a part of my statement and elaborated on it. I said there was a whole lot of things at play to me becoming obviously, not just the dream stopping. That happened when I was a kid. But I started to ask questions.
Now, for me, it all boils down to religion is very personal to everybody. When I started learning about Islam, I used to have series of panic attacks. Now, in January 2022, it had gotten to the point where I had to get on antidepressants. I found Islam February 2022, and I found it through a Muslim podcast, a storytelling podcast. I was not even myself at any point. But the Quran, I did not understand it. I did not know what was being said. But every time I'll go to bed, I sleep listening to the Quran because it gave me peace. If I went to bed without listening to the Quran, I wake up in the morning and I can feel myself going back to how I was before I started listening to Muslim stories and the Quran, which still brings me back to the point that it is personal. For him, he sort of understood Arabic, but when he read the Bible, the Gideon's Bible, and he saw the words of God in red, he felt a connection to it. But he didn't feel that with praying Salat and speaking Arabic. But I felt it without understanding it. So at the end of the day, it is a personal journey.
Please signify if you agree with the prompt. Sharia is a misunderstood concept. It is not about oppression, but justice.
I feel like it's about justice because according to Islam, you guys do not believe. I feel like in Christianity, we believe that Jesus died for us already. Because of that, no matter the sins, we are justified in the eyes of God. We don't believe that. And according to, if it's what I've learned in Islam, is that Judas was the one who even took Jesus' place at the very end. Since that is the way you guys are, I kind of feel somehow about it, but since that is your religion, that is how it is for you.
I think one of the most misunderstood things is Sharia. In fact, calling it Sharia law is a big misunderstanding on its own because Sharia actually means law. So saying law, that's tautology. That's joke intended anyway. I think we misunderstood Sharia so much, and that's based on the propagation of certain people who want to actually make other people look like, they are barbaric or something. For instance, people believe that Sharia is all about cutting people's hand, turning people to death.
I mean, there's a rule on that.
Flogging people to death and all those things. That's what people believe. And it's so funny that people who are against Sharia law are the people who engage most in jungle justice, killing somebody because the person stole omo or bread in the market. You see, in Islam, if someone steals, for instance, when you caught the person, let me use something more serious now. The person went into the mosque and stole the clock in the mosque and went to sell it for 2.5 and used the 2.5 to buy bread and beans and chew coke. Then you guys caught the person. That thing is telling you something. It's telling you that that person is facing serious poverty. If it is a Sharia-compliant society, I'm not talking about our secular Nigerian law, the ruler of that society, it is now mandated upon that person to look for a job for that person so that the person will stop whatever the person is doing. And if it is, for instance, the case of someone fornicates and you're supposed to flog the person, if you fornicate, the Sharia is that you're actually supposed to just keep it new to yourself and make sure that you seek forgiveness from God because He is all forgiving. That is the first thing. And before you can even punish somebody for fornication, for instance, which are actually like the serious one, flog the person 100 lashes, the Sharia has made it so impossible to catch the person because the Sharia stipulates that that person must be, it must be that about 4 people would have witnessed that person, the number 1 going into the number 0. They must all be 4 that have witnessed it at the same time, and they must all give the same narrative of what happened. How is that possible? So the Sharia has made it so people actually think, the Sharia is just to oppress, cut people's hands, stone people's today and things like that. But no. And let's look at the countries that actually practice Sharia. I'm not talking about those countries that they depict in movies or the countries where they've been so infiltrated and with their ignorance and lack of education, they've actually done nonsense extreme stuff. I'm talking about countries where go to Saudi Arabia, go to Dubai. They will tell you can work at 3 a.m. in the night. Nothing will happen to you. Why? because they know that if you should kill somebody there, immediately the Sharia will be placed on you after all evidences have been made clear on you. Then, of course, some people might be like, oh, it is the Sharia that made some people to burn a girl to death in a certain state in Nigeria, right? That is very wrong. Because in the Sharia, it is not in the place of the ordinary men to actually carry out punishment. And then number two, you don't apply Sharia on a non-Muslim. It is wrong. It is only on a Muslim, and it is after everything has been established on that Muslim. And it is not an issue of blasphemy. A Christian or any other person from another religion blaspheme the prophet. So what? We can't just carry the person and go and burn the person. Applying the punishment of fire on a person is actually haram in the Sharia law. If a person kills somebody by burning, you are not to go and take the person and go and burn the person. No, because we believe it is only God that owns the fire, that created them, and he is the only one that has the right to punish somebody with that as he wishes, not we the people. My name is Abu Salman, and I'm the co-founder of Street Jalabia. I'm a Muslim, happily married Muslim. To leave the religion of Islam is actually to due to maybe personal experiences, understanding of the religion, and of course extremism. I mean, our brothers, they so extreme for Islam. Where we say, you go really just they wonder for your head, say, Omo, why people they do like this? So much people that will just leave Nigeria, enter Dubai, or they'll be like, Omo, she not the same Quran they read for Dubai. Now that it is for this Nigeria, because I know they show.
It's human philosophy or psychology that whatever it is that we do not have knowledge about, that we do not know, right? We get scared of it. And we see it as the black side because in truth, it's dark to us. Those people in general who says the Sharia favors oppression, they've categorically categorized themselves to be what? To be those of ignorance. Because in essence, you cannot, if you are saying something of light preaches darkness, then you are contradicting. After every sermon on Friday, the Imam, what does he say? Your Lord God commands you of what? Of justice, bil-adli wal-ihsan. Do you understand? So basically, it is the Sharia that gives the oppressed the opportunity to move out of oppression. It does not give anyone a liberty or exempt anyone from punishment. That is social justice.
Can the disagreeers now speak?
I didn't raise my hands at first because maybe I'm a bit pedantic with words, right? So it depends on what you mean exactly by misunderstood. Misunderstood in the general sense, I think I would agree. But if you're talking about misunderstand in the fact that Sharia law commands some things that seem to tick our modern sensibilities, like, cutting off of the hand down to the forearm, or whether we're talking about apostasy laws, for instance, or we're talking about women wearing burqa, all of those are true and enshrined in the Sharia. But he rightly pointed out that there are deterring actions that you have to take prior to, take it. Those are supposed to be last resorts. In the case of Deborah Yusuf, the girl that was stoned to death in Sokoto, or under blasphemy.
She was born.
Yeah, she was first stoned, then she was burnt. The claim was that she blasphemed the name of Muhammad, or Roda Jatau that was jailed in Bauchi. Like you rightly said, there is nothing in Islamic jurisprudence that commands that Sharia is binding on non-Muslims. So in that case, I guess you could say moderate Muslims could even condemn that action because their laws do not command them. Even though, like he also pointed out, a lot of countries do not put this into practice, Indonesia, Malaysia, Iran, but it's right there. So just wanted to make that distinction.
I believe knowledge is power. And before I heard your opinion and your opinion, I disagreed. But now that I've heard your opinion and how it's practiced and how it's actually meant to be done, I agree. So yeah.
I believe that these laws are subject to human interpretation. The way they are interpreted, like you said, in a country like Iran is more different from, a country like
or the way it's interpreted in Afghanistan, for instance.
Yeah, it's totally different. If there's a law in place and the interpretations of these laws are different in different places, it means there's a loophole It means there's a loophole in the law. If I'm going to, talk about the Bible, the laws of Moses, that's exactly why Jesus came. He did not come to abolish the law. It did not come that law is not right. It is right. You cannot kill. You cannot steal. And expect that there will not be some sort of
Consequence.
But in the way the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the way they were going about this law, the way they were interpreting this law, you could see that it was wrong. They were using it to oppress the people. And so when Jesus came, he says, you know what? Yes, the law, but then take this. Love is the fundamental. My name is Oidamola Ainla. I work in the fashion industry as a pattern drafter. I am a Christian, used to formerly be a Muslim. And I am very passionate about my faith. I love Jesus, and I believe that Jesus is the way, the life, and the truth. The idea of converting to Christianity has been, on my heart for so long, ever since I've been a child. Having so many questions as a Muslim and not finding answers. But I became a convert, I'll say 6 years ago, but then I started going to church constantly just 3 years ago.
The consequences meted on apostates of Islam are justifiable.
When you're talking about the apostates law, as it applies to certain era of time, might be different from how it applies to another time. That's why in a lot of times we need to avoid what we call anachronism. That is justifying the standards of past eras with the standard of the modern time. If it is on the grounds of the modern society we are now, you don't find certain well-educated Islamic societies now carrying out those. So this law is actually based on those who were Muslims at that era, who, because they claim to be Muslims, but eventually they now left the cycle of Muslims to go and meet the idolaters then, to scheme on how to wipe out the entire Muslim village. And because of the fact that you can't allow one person to make a scheme that's going to kill thousands of people, even if you're going to leave Islam, not that you now go and meet the idolater and be like, you know what, at so point in time, the lights are off in the city. When you enter here, it is children that are there. You can kill them. Once you round up the women, they have less number, then you can attack the men. Or let us go and kill the men. They are always in certain places. Then we'll now take their women, rape them, and do whatever we want to do and go. Because of that reason, that was why they were killed at those era. But in the modern time, I think I want to disagree with the prompt. That's why you rarely find, except in certain places in Afghanistan, we know what's going on then. But when you're talking about the Islamic states, there are non-Muslims in Dubai now. There are lots of Arab people who were born as Muslim, musicians, and other people that became non-Muslim. Some became atheists, some became anything they want to become. And nothing was passed on them. They are free, they roam the city. In fact, they even go online to start causing trouble and saying a lot of bad things about Muslims. But yet, no verdict was passed on them. It would be bad for me to call Alexander the Great a bad person because he fought wars, and he was referred to Alexander the Great because of what we are having now. Of course, what Israel is doing is bad, but it's not really different from what was going on then. But yet, I can't judge them with the modern standard.
When we talk about Sharia in Islam, there are 5 aspects in which Sharia is divided into. And just like in law in school, we have civil law, property law, different kinds of law. So the same goes for Sharia. Just like he said, right, the reason why that is said and is justified is in the context of that era. In an Islamic state, 100% of the people there, of the citizens, are Muslims, right? So when someone is now given the liberty to go out of the fold of Islam, he's telling other people, you have the liberty to follow suit. And now the state is coming, is getting divided into 2. So to avoid that, let that person go, so that it does not take other people and mislead them.
Can the disagreeers now speak?
We cannot make certain decisions, like taking the life of someone else's, because they have decided to not follow the path that we are following. Because of that, we kill them. Is that not negating what your religion is preaching on. If you're preaching about peace, you should let God do his will. You cannot take justice for God and you cannot act as God. I'm Salama, a Muslim and a feminist. My journey with religion has been a roller coaster. I was born as a Christian, then I became an atheist, and now a Muslim, alhamdulillah. After I took my Shahada, which was on my 20th birthday, the reality dawned on me because I realized that I didn't have the community that I would have wanted. And whenever Ramadan rolls around, I find myself eating suhoor alone. So when you lack the community you need, the loneliness starts to creep in. But now I found the balance and I truly understand that my intention is known to Almighty Allah.
If you have to take laws into your own hands, human to human, then was the law, was it really formulated by a supreme being?
Right.
Because if a supreme being should lay down certain laws that people should not, sin against, should it not mean that he has also set consequences by himself? That whenever they sin against these laws, this and this will happen to them. Why does it have to be that it is the people that are, have to judge this particular person by killing that particular person? If this law was really given by a supreme being, it should be able to test the sound of time.
Bam.
It should be able to test time. It means it should not be a law that will be outdated in future. It should be a law that would be able to work back then, and right now, and even in the future.
From their point, no, immediately no. It is not justifiable at this level. Thank you.
There's no justifiable reason why you should take a person's life because they are living in religion. I mean, when you think about the Holy Roman Empire for that ranged almost throughout the medieval empire. Of course, there were times where divine law was instituted, and of course, if there are divine laws, there also have to be consequences for breaking those divine laws as well. But there was not a single time where, apostasy laws were instituted as one of those divine laws. And I think that also negates your point on deterrence, right? It sort of breaks the bonds that binds Muslims together. But when you look at the case of Zambia, for instance, that's a Christian nation, they did not institute apostasy laws. And we find that over about 97% of Zambians are Christian. It self-identifies as a Christian nation. And it has religious tolerance. But you don't see as a result of that people then converting en masse. So I think it's something that you should put into consideration. My name is Mohammed Sule. I'm a researcher and I'm currently rounding up my postgraduate studies. I'm a Christian, but I used to be a Muslim for most part of my life. I think I was Muslim for about 20 years. The journey of my walk out of Islam into Christianity began when I was much younger. I had no reason why I would walk out on a very hot afternoon to sit outside, but I did for some strange reason. And a friend in the street, Deji, who we always, bantered around, just came and he just stated it that if I didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God, I would not see the Father. This is me who believed that other Christians were going to be condemned, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, it's not just a mental assent to what he said. It was as if somebody drew a sword and then thrust it into my heart. And that would lead me on to inquiring about Christianity, comparing it with Islam. And it is this, of course, that culminated into my conversion in my early 20s.
But to add to your point, it makes me just realize something. So people probably even stayed in Islam due to fear of them being killed.
Yes.
Okay, let's understand that Sharia is not the law of any human. It's a divine law, right?
Meaning law. Emphasis on divine law.
Emphasis on the divine law.
And we know what divine means.
It is God himself that prescribed it. This.
So there shouldn't be a debate as to whether it should be
justifiable
as
or
a
not.
Muslim, right? One of the tenets of Islam, your Shahada, is what makes you a Muslim, right? So you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna, I bear witness that Allah is the messenger and Prophet Muhammad. And now in the Quran, God is telling you that idkhulu fi silmi kafatan wa la tattabi'u khutuwati shaitan. He's telling you that if you want to enter Islam, there is no compulsion. In the Quran, God tells us that there is no compulsion in religion. If you want to practice Islam, practice. If you don't want to practice, don't practice. But if you want to practice, enter what? With your whole heart, submissively. For the confine of Islam, right, there are certain laws, meaning once you enter,
There's no
do
back door.
not.
So if we have a hypothetical scenario where, let's say in the Middle East, and this is actually what happens, where a daughter leaves Islam, and because they've brought shame and reproach upon the family, they now have to do what you call a honor killing, where they kill, and it happens all the time, right? Now, I'm saying that if a person does that, by divine law, is he right to do so or he's wrong to do so?
Now, let's go back to Sharia rights.
Yes
In
or
the Sharia,
no? Yes or no?
It's a fuller question.
Yes or no?
I want to answer. There's nothing
follow-up
called honor
question.
killing in Islam, in the Sharia.
I didn't even assert that there's honor
Yeah,
killing
so
in
it's a
Sharia.
no.
But there are apostasy laws that demand the termination of life in Sharia, yes?
So what I'm saying now, going back to his points, right? So before you can even met out the Sharia law, right, there has to be, there are processes, right? You have to be tried by a Qadi. And even before a Qadi, before you can become a Qadi, there are different, nothing less than 16 different kind of knowledges you need to have. They understand. So it's not just jungle justice where the father, or because he sees, oh, my daughter is doing something different from mine, and he goes to kill her. They understand. So it is not Islamic.
So you are saying that they are wrong?
Yes.
So you're saying they're wrong?
Of course.
Do you know that during the time of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, someone said he's not a Muslim anymore and he wasn't killed?
What's the context?
Right? Are we going to use 1 to weigh 99?
But the hadiths have not been established then, right?
I would like to correct my brother because, of course, you know, just like Allah said in the Quran that we should always fazakir fa'inna zikra tanfa'ul mu'minin. This thing has to do with warfare in a way because this person, I don't know, you can talk about, let's talk, if you go back to ancient laws, when people are called to be informants during wars, you know what that one person can actually wreak havoc on a whole army. And to actually protect thousands of lives, you have to take, it's like someone who is driving a train and someone is riding bicycle across. The person will not stop the train because of that one person. Everyone in the train is going to die. He doesn't have a choice. When people left the Muslims, some of them were not actually Muslim, they were pretending. So they left and went out, infiltrated the Muslim and came back. And the funny thing about Muslim society, if you want to talk about the time of the Prophet ﷺ, for instance, is that in Medina, there were not just Muslims and Muslims alone. There were Muslims, there were Christians, there were Jews. And a constitution was even drafted then that the Muslims actually have to protect the Jews. The Jews were not as much as the Muslims. So if someone now went outside, became an informer, went to Mecca, told them that, look, so time, the light of the city is off, you can actually go and kill everybody at that time.
Something.
So now, wait, on your point, you made a point that people are actually Muslims because of fear. I said in the modern time now, I don't think that law is being practiced, number one. Then number two, maybe you can enlighten me. I am yet to see any verse in the Quran that mentions that if somebody says not a Muslim, go and kill the person. On the issue of what do you call it, honor killing or something, I don't know. I've never in my life heard of that thing before. And it is, I've never heard of it before. I'm being sincere, honestly.
That's fine, sincere. But you can try reading up on it.
So, like, honor killing, you don't do that. That's why I gave examples that there are even people who are Middle Eastern who became other than Muslim. They were not Muslims anymore, and they were not killed. There is a rapper in the UK like that, but they were not killed.
That's not the issue, though.
Can she talk?
Let me talk. You agree that it is justified that they were killed, yes or no? I do not want...
When?
Question is question. Did they specify?
That's why I said, is there a context to this thing? Is there a context to this thing? If you're talking about people that were killed during this our modern time, I disagree. But if you're talking about what happened in an old era, no, I'm sorry.
Justifiable is justifiable. Do you think it is justifiable? Yes or no? Shikana, we're not looking back then, we're not looking now. Is it justifiable? Yes or no? I know my stance, and my stance is a pure no. There's no maybe, there's no but, there's not me trying to find a loophole to make it make sense. So tell us, is it justifiable? Yes or no?
And I'll keep standing on my existing opinion that I will always avoid anachronism when it comes to things that has to do with an old era and the modern era. In the modern era, certain things are not applicable based on the world laws now. But if you're talking about then that something happened, then
the
I
law is
maintain my
outdated.
stance.
I think your view is very problematic. And I don't think you can cite any Islamic scholar on jurisprudence to support that there's a distinction between when the law was applicable then in the medieval era or from the 7th century when Islam arose till this very moment. And secondly as well, you say that you cannot find a single verse in the Quran to support that statement, and I agree. Except that, of course, the Quran is not the only source of your deen.
Yes.
The Hadith is also a source of your deen.
Yes.
Do you know what just clicked in my head?
Divine law does not mean that divine
The
law is
same
not
way you're
commandment.
justifying the fact that
It is.
it was justifiable back then is the same way certain people would perform this same act and claim it under the religion, and it would make perfect sense to them. Are you joking? Are you joking?
Go ahead and finish
Are you going to tell me now that those people that justified this back then, if they were here today and they killed somebody in the name of protecting the religion as it is happening now, are you going to tell me that if I stand to them and tell them it's not justifiable, they would tell me I'm right? Are you going to tell the killers of Deborah that they were wrong
But I just
for
said
fighting
they were
for
wrong
Islam?
now. I just said it now.
No. You're saying that back then and right now is different. But let me tell you what you think is different. It still happens, but it's not as documented as it was back then.
Exactly.
Go to the northern states. You cannot proudly say you're a Christian.
And
Why?
I feel
Because
so
you're
bad
living
for that
in
because
fear.
they don't
You
even
feel bad for them.
understand.
So how are you justifying
A
the
lot of
wrongs
them-
that people did back then that's putting fear in the hearts of Christians and other people?
Okay. One thing I would like to actually clear is that, firstly, I'm against any form of taking people's life for nothing. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. But at the same time, I mentioned the particular terminology which has to do with anachronism. That's why I didn't want to answer the question almost immediately. I was like, are you on a general context? People, they come up for Islam, you know me, say, oh, na journey, religion na journey. Person no just feel wake up one day, na bread and butter, you just they chop Islam, they go. No, it's not possible. But when you talk about medieval times, ancient times, plenty things dey wey happen that time. War things wey be say happen, wey be say, e no make sense if we dey hear am now. But you see that time, because they know say, for survival sake, the gas carry out that thing.
Let's understand that it's not only in Islam that killing is being meted out. Even in different cultures, we can cite different examples. When people do things like maybe stealing or any other thing, they behead them. So are we saying that is justifiable and that of Islam is not justifiable? Every law has its own jurisprudence, and it has its own confines. We've established the fact that Nigeria,
Law of
for
man,
our example,
not
the
a
example of
supreme
here
law.
now. Can you let me speak, please? Even in the normal constitution, let's take Islam out of the fold here. If someone kills another person, what is the justifiable, what would you count as justice for that person that committed, for anyone that commits murder? The Bible says what? An eye for an eye, right? So what does an eye for an eye mean? Right?
Please, let's move to the next one.
Personally.
That's not what God
So
said.
if you take someone's life in the Bible, what does it say? My stand is that apostasy that was being done then, right, in the times it was proposed, right, in the time it was given, is justifiable, right? But honor killing, there is nothing under Sharia that is called honor killing. So to me, there is nothing called honor killing.
Love for my neighbor is more important than my religion.
Religion itself speaks about love. And I believe that religion should not take away your sense of self. Now, let me paint a scenario. If I have a friend who is in the queer community, because of my religion, I would not put my friend at a harm's distance. I would still love my friend the same way I normally would. When you tend to make religion your entire moral compass, and it's what you breathe, and I'm not saying that's not what you're meant to do, that is what you're meant to do, but there should be times when we need to understand that
I'm not saying put your religion aside, but be accommodating and be accepting that outside of your bubble and the religious bubble you have, people have different perspective and how they see life. Now, I'm not going to think love of my neighbor means your friend. I'm going to mean people that have done that ordinarily your religion would not accept. And they would not have a place or they would not feel welcome in your religion. So yes, love for my neighbor, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but it's more important than my religion.
Yes, and even so, in my religion, it says love thy neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
It says that already. My religion preaches love a lot. It's everywhere in the Bible. Even the most famous quote in the Bible, for God so loved the world. 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love. Love is patient, love is kind, love brings joy. See, that is it. So love is everything. No matter what you've done and everything, I'm just going to love you and forgive.
The Quran says also that Allah created us, Zakarin wa Unsa, waja'ala lakum qabahila lita'arufu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. You know that He has created us into males, females, and He has created us into tribes and nations. Why? So that we may know ourselves, we may relate with ourselves. He didn't say, I've created you into Muslim and Christian. And the Prophet ﷺ said in one of his hadiths, one of the companions was saying the Prophet ﷺ used to tell them so much about their neighbor, that they should love their neighbor, honor their neighbor so much. He didn't mention that a Muslim neighbor generally, because then we have Muslim, Jews, Zoroastrians living together in Medina, and there was nothing happening then. He mentioned that he should love and honor them so much to the extent that he himself was now scared that I hope this way our prophet is not going to, God is not going to tell us that we should now start giving our neighbor from our inheritance when we die, because this one that they are telling us to love our neighbor so much. So it's all love, it's all good.
Love comes first before my religion, because I can even argue that I don't have a religion. I am a child of God, plain and simple. The encounter that I had with Jesus is an encounter of love. Is to accept him. It is by his love, it's by the love of the Father that he sacrificed his only begotten Son, that I might be aligned to him. And so it means if I believe this love act that happened on the cross, it means that out of me should come out nothing but love. It's not about religion. It's not about being right or being wrong. It's do you love? Because when you receive salvation, then the work that the Holy Spirit begins to do in you is to transform you into the image of Christ. And what is the very image of Christ? Love.
Okay, so I'll start with the sayings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says, "Innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun." What that translates to is definitely the Muslims or the believers are brothers, right? And when he was saying that, he did something like this, right? He gesticulated like this, and we understand that if there is a Muslim or if there is someone that makes it to heaven, they are given the liberty, right, to save 40 people of their neighbors to the right, to the left, front, and back. The most part of the Islamic religion, the message at which it conveys is about brotherhood and love to your neighbor.
Can the disagreeer now speak?
I like everybody's submission, by the way. It's not as much as disagreeing as such. What I disagree particularly with is the framing. They are not particularly at odds. If we put them in an order of priority, I would say my faith is most important to me in the same way my faith is most important to me than any other thing. But
Nobody said religion.
Religion, faith, interchangeable. But the point is, bearing up my faith and loving my neighbor are not at odds. Matter of fact, the very reason why I know that I can love my neighbor, I'm enabled to love my neighbor, is because of my faith. If we're to speak from a sociological perspective, the Christian faith has done a lot for the world. It has done a lot in transforming our moral psychology through the ages. The idea of charity, for instance, came with the advent of Christianity. The idea of hospitals, for instance, came with the advent of Christianity. The idea of universal human rights. And that's not to say that there aren't instituted human rights in societies. I mean, you have that from the Code of Hammurabi in the ancient world. But that the human rights are universal. So whether you're a slave or whether you're old, whether you're a woman, everybody is equal because we are all made in the image of God. And because of that, I am then compelled to love you as myself. We just answer the question. I don't think they're at odds. What makes me love my neighbor is because of my Christian faith.
In what you said, I'm not completely disagreeing. You said what makes you love your neighbor is because of your Christian faith. I would like to say that if I didn't have religion, if I didn't have anything that makes me look like this, if I wasn't a Muslim, I would still love my neighbor. I like to believe that you know good people when you take their religion out of their life and they're still good people. So your moral compass should not be based on the reward you are getting or because it is deemed as good. You should be a good person because you're a good person. People would tend to place religion and it is their basis and it's their bone. It's what they live by, is what is so dear to their heart. They are some of the nastiest people you would ever meet because they believe my religion says it should be this way. So if you're not doing it according to my religion, I have no love in my heart for you.
You're right in that sense, but what I'm saying is that you don't even know whether, and to finalize this, you don't even know whether you would do that because, again, the moral psychology under which you operate, whether or not you acknowledge God in it, is seared into the vestiges of society, right? So whether or not you acknowledge it, you are working under a moral framework. You don't even have to invoke God to do it. But the thing is that when we look at the diachronic development of that moral thought, it all goes back to Christianity at the end of the day. Whether or not we disagree with the framing or not, I think what's most quintessential for everybody is that our religion prioritizes love for our neighbor. And that's very important enough. As I see Ridwan, I've not known you more than a day, but I could say that I have a very strong affinity for you.
Is it up to 5 hours?
A fellow human and I love you. So, yeah.
So it's very important that we still have some sense of self when while we're accepting of other people's personal decisions. To an ex-Muslim watching this, I hope and pray you find the peace you're looking for. I hope and pray that everything works perfectly for you.
Whether you're a Muslim or whatever religion, right? Life happens to us. So, but what we need to do is, sit back and chillax, right? Just take a chill pill, right?
I believe you're on a journey, you're on a path. Please keep searching for the truth. Don't stay on, just keep searching for the truth.
Since we know that, okay, there is a supreme being, resources are available to us more than ever. Go online, search for whatever it is you believe about God, right? So look for people you feel that are knowledgeable around you. Make the effort to seek for help.
And in as much as the people around you, if you do have any, might make it seem like you're making a bad decision, I still stand by what I say. Religion is a very personal journey. And even besides religion is not how it would work for you, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're a good person and you have good morals, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I love you.
And I believe that, inshallah, bi'Iznillah, Allah will guide you on the right path.
So my Muslim brothers and sisters, I love you guys so much. Jesus has kept so much love in me that I just have to share out to every one of us. So anybody I come across,
I love you. I love you with the love of Christ. I know that in my human form, I don't have the capacity to love you. But since I met Christ, I have been consumed by a love that I know that even I don't have the capacity to handle.
To a Muslim brother or sister, I would simply say that I love you with the love of Christ, honestly and genuinely.
And I will use this opportunity to actually just speak to all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there. Please, learn about your religion. Don't just take your religion because one sheikh talks, oh yeah, anybody go scatter them. No. Read the Quran, read the Hadith, understand the tafsir, learn as much as you can learn, then practice to the best of your ability. Because the truth be say, our Prophet Muhammad say, one of the things as Muslim wey we gats dey far away from na extremism, because if you dey extreme with your religion, number one, the religion go tire you. Number two, you no go even come fit do am well sef.
We've come to the end of today's episode. I hope we've been able to find some knowledge and understanding.
Man, that was a good conversation. Hold on.
Girls.
Good. That was good. Hold on.
Sorry, I don't think
Okay, but I
Salama. I offend.
around.